Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started here, and probably a couple people striving a little bit in the lobby. That's okay. Is the sound okay out there? Am I blowing you away? Can you hear? Okay, perfect. I don't know if we've got any clicker counts from any of our community ambassadors yet, but they're working on it. But I feel like every time we do one of these, it's bigger and bigger. So that's really encouraging for us, and we're super happy to have all of you here. So first of all, my gratitude for all of you for showing up tonight for this very important topic. So my name is Bethany Urban. I'm one of your firefighters and paramedics and public information officer here at Elk Creek Fire under the Conifer Wildland Division. And we're here tonight to talk about the very important topic, evacuation preparedness in our community. I want to give a quick shout out to our partners who joined us here tonight. You met most of them in the lobby, everything from our animal evacuation folks, large and small, and Jefferson Animal Control to Open Space, to our community ambassadors and Jefferson 911. We really appreciate everyone being out here to support this event with us this evening. And I also would just want to acknowledge that Commissioner Conifer was able to join us here this evening as well. I don't see her. There she is. I was told she was here. Fantastic. I know you had a very busy evening with us tonight, so thank you for getting to be here with us. We always appreciate that county support. A couple of quick housekeeping items. If anybody doesn't already know, in the high school, if you need the restrooms, they are literally just around this corner. The women's is the first on the right, and the men's is just a little bit further past the vending machine there. And obviously, if we have a fire or any other emergency in this building, there are multiple doors behind you that you can leave from, as well as the door that you came in and back to the left to the parking lot as well. So I always got to do this because it helps us learn what we're doing right and what we're not doing right. So really quick show of hands. I really would love to hear how you found out about this event tonight. So did you find out about this event through social media? Just give me a hand raise. Okay, so that's a pretty decent amount. How about from your community ambassador? Always a big winner. Great, and you just word of mouth, but you heard it from a friend. Somebody told you about it. Fantastic. I don't think I hung any posters this time, so I know it wasn't that. But anything else, anybody shout one out that we missed that you heard about us from? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Oh, the board. Yeah, the board. We thought about that this time and did that. It's a good stroke. Anything else? And Conifer Area Council. Awesome. Well, thanks to our partners at Conifer Area Council for amplifying this evening for us as well. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Thanks for sending you our way. We really appreciate it. Okay, so tonight we want to give you an opportunity to make informed decisions before you have to make fast decisions. If you've been watching what's going on around the state of Colorado right now, you know that, speaking of the word fast, there's a lot of fast moving fires, surprising people and having them have to make decisions and move faster than they had initially intended. We've watched fire behavior over the years just get kind of crazier and crazier. So we know how important it is to make those decisions ahead of time. So we want to talk honestly tonight about what that can look like. And, you know, it can be a really scary thing, right? We've had fires here. We're looking around the state. We've seen what's happening to people, their homes, their animals, their cattle. And talking about wildfire can be really scary. We're not here to try and scare you, although we are going to probably show you some things that are a little bit scary. But what we're really here to do is have an honest conversation about wildfire and what it means to be prepared. We want to be straight with you about what that could look like and what you can best do for your family and your animals to make sure that you remain safe during such an event. So tonight, these are the things we really hope that you leave knowing. Understanding our wildfire risk and learning a little bit more about what that looks like, and we'll give you some ample opportunity to see that. Knowing your planning unit. How many people in here already know what planning unit is? You knew when you came, whether it was from your ambassador or some reason, you knew what planning unit was. Okay, that's not that many, so this is exciting. Has anybody here tonight learned already what planning unit they live in? Okay, I got some work to do. All right, who does not know what planning unit they live in? All right, well, that's one of the reasons we're here, so I'm super excited. We're going to show you exactly how to find that out. And I will tell you right now, you'll hear me tell you a lot of times tonight, that is incredibly important because if you get evacuated, That is how you are going to know you are being evacuated, by the planning unit. We're going to say Murphy Gulch is getting evacuated. We'll talk more about that, but make sure that your goal before you leave here tonight is to know the planning unit you live in. At the very least, you know how to find that out once you get home. We want you to know how to stay informed, and that means by listening to official sources. We're going to go into that more. There's a lot of different sources out there, and we want to make sure you know how to find the right ones. Like I said earlier, we want to know what to expect. We're going to be straightforward about what a wildfire evacuation could look like, and we're going to try to set you up to win in that situation as much as you possibly can. And we want you to know how to build your personal plan so that if a wildfire does come, you are ready. You have a go bag, you have the animals ready, you have the kids ready, you got the grandparents ready, that you know what you're going to do. Sound like a plan for the evening? All right. So why does this matter, right? I think most of those of you, if you live in this area, you already know. Wildfire is not hypothetical for us, right? Wildfire is a reality of where we live in these districts. And if that preparation should be starting long before you see smoke in the air. Long before then, and we want to give you that opportunity to start thinking about what that looks like for you so you have more options if that does happen around here. So tonight is about understanding that, and we're going to hopefully give you a lot of tools for that. So let's jump right in. We want to talk a little bit about what our risk is here in this area. So we have a bit of a video that we created a couple years ago. It gives us a little bit of a good introduction. Some of you may have seen it. It's on one of our story maps that we have online, but I'm going to go ahead and play it for you guys, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we see. And I got to do this a little bit differently because, hold on, set this down. I got to go to a slightly different spot here to do this. Here we go. All right, no promises. If the sound's gonna blow you away, I'll try and fix it if it does.
He said dozens and dozens and dozens of homes he saw engulfed in flames in the video you're looking at. It is truly hard to watch.
We are continuing our coverage of the Marshall Fire this morning. As the day goes on, we're going to learn more about this fire, and what we're going to learn is not going to be very pretty, that's for sure.
What are the chances of this kind of catastrophic wildfire happening in our districts?
In September of 2020, Ben and I had been assigned to work on the Peachy Creek and Lions Head fires in Oregon. The first day we drove through the small mountain community of Detroit after the fire had moved through, Ben said, "Get out your phone, film this. We need to study this because this is the exact kind of thing that is just waiting to happen back home in Conifer." The whole town was gone. Even the fire department had burned to the ground.
Right now we're heading towards the point of origin for the quarry fire on Deer Creek Canyon Road. Fire started around 9:30 on Tuesday night, right along Deer Creek Canyon Road and spreading pretty actively upslope towards the south and into Deer Creek Canyon Park. And brush and timber ran pretty quickly upslope, and by the time I was able to get a scout up on the upper knob of the right flank, it could sort of assess how far upslope it had gone towards the Sampson community. It had already spread and flanked into the timber within about 45 minutes. It was ridge top, and we were getting 80 to 100 foot flame lengths. The next day, the concern was really that fire had become seated in Rattlesnake Gulch and Plymouth Gulch, and that with the wind reversal, when the next day sun got on the ground and started seeing upslope winds, those drainages would heat up and we'd start seeing fire activity towards the Sampson community, which was exactly what it did. In my mind, the probability of fire progressing into Sampson, if the fire behavior continued to be what we were seeing, the probability of losing structures in Sampson seemed significant and high.
Who was there for the Corey fire? Yeah. Who was evacuated from the Corey fire? Anybody? Handful of people? Yeah, did anybody get pre-evacuated? Like they said, you better be ready? Yeah. Yeah, it seems really far away right now, right? But then we look at that and it's kind of like right back, right? So as that video told you, Aspen Park and the areas around here are at greater risk of wildfire than 99% of all communities in the Colorado and the United States. So we're in the 1 percentile, that's pretty high. Why is that, right? We have some pretty challenging areas around here when it comes to evacuation, our terrain, our fuel loading. We've got dense forests, we've got really steep terrain. This is a picture, an aerial picture of an area in Conifer. You can see how dense that tree is, and those are all little houses up there that you see, right? And you can see it's one way in, one way out. Fire likes to burn uphill, right? So there are a lot of areas like that where it's limited evacuation routes. So this is why preparation matters. In extreme fire conditions, around half of the roads in our fire districts could potentially be non-survivable. So you see all of those red roads on that map in that area, and I apologize to our Conifer fire districts. This map is a little bit older and doesn't have our south or southern area on it. But that's about 50% of the roads in the district during extreme fire would potentially not be survivable. Even in moderate fire conditions, about 30% of our roads are not survivable. So again, we just come back to being prepared. It's going to give you more options. Tonight, we want you to know your planning unit, how to get that information, and have a plan before that emergency happens so that you do not find yourself stuck on a non-survivable road. So like we kind of just saw, we're going to take a minute here and kind of learn some lessons from a recent fire in our own district, from the Corey fire. That really did remind us why we need that preparation. So I would like to introduce Elk Creek Fire's Deputy Chief, Ben Yellen, and he is going to talk to us about this local example and what we can learn from that.
Evening, everybody. So John might poke his head in here too if I'm missing something. But first of all, that's a lot of scary information. What I'm about to show you truly is a success story, to be honest with you. There's a lot of responders here that managed and really suppressed that fire, so I just want to thank them. We haven't publicly done that yet. So thank you. I got a fancy pointer right here too. So this is what we have. The county has a sim table. We ran a couple of simulations, and the company actually helped us model what this fire looked like, so we can walk you through all of these scenarios. Jason Davenport, our wildland captain, kind of walk you through some of the operations. This isn't really an operations type of presentation. We really want to focus on the evacuations. And I apologize, I don't have the impressive beard he does. And so the fire started at about 9:30 at night. By the time we did have significant resources on there, it grew significantly. We were getting a fair amount of rollout, which means burn material coming downhill, which creates suppression difficulties as well. It's extremely steep terrain. If you guys have hiked through that park, you know what we're talking about. and continuous fields. I think as you start looking at some of the topography within this map, you'll see how connected this topography actually is and how fire can move from what seems to be pretty far away. It takes you a pretty good drive to get to the open space, but this fire can move real fast, real quick. And so it started right there, right off the road, in the canyon, in a pretty nasty area. As it grew, we got more resources. We called all of our mutual aid partners that night, sheriff's office. We set up incident command. Our commanders are back there. We started trying to figure out what could we do with this thing, because it was moving, like Jason said, pretty quickly. In fact, so quickly, probably by that next morning, it was 400 acres and pushing. And so there was no way we were going to be able to catch it that night. What we did do is stay up all night and try and figure out how to get people out. What we had in the conditions was a planning level 5 nationally. So we have a 1 to 5 rating nationally. A 5 means we're probably not getting the resources that we asked for. We're extremely limited. Everybody's really to their limit in terms of fire suppression at a national level. We knew the fire behavior we were seeing, and we really needed to get people out. The CWPP that we were in and a couple other fire districts that we had these planning units, and we decided to use them. And that was a call between us and the sheriff's office and the incident commanders. And this is the start of the success story. Our suppression module was up all night, mapping this, figuring out what we could do, doing direct actions as we could. And then our planning units were able to actually tell you guys that we needed to evacuate everybody. And we're going to get into the reason why. As you can see within the terrain, and we'll zoom out just a little bit, still pretty nasty and all contiguous in the open space park. What we were really concerned about when you're finding is spotting over the canyon. So at any point, that fire could have spotted over the canyon, right into Murphy Gulch on a south-facing slope. That fire moves even faster. And so in some of the modeling, you can see it spotting ahead of itself. It was throwing embers ahead of the main fire, even at night, and establishing fire, which is pretty extreme fire behavior for 2 a.m. But what we were worried about is it crossing that canyon and then cutting off all of the evacuation areas that we had established, which are pretty limited in Deer Creek Canyon. If you live down there, you know, just to get to your house takes a while, right? Here's my pointer. And as you see, once you either cross, South Deer Creek or Deer Creek up here, it actually comes right all the way basically to 285. And so as we were looking at some of these models that I'm going to show you in a second, it could have crossed and moved in a very different fashion. The direct suppression actions, the aircraft that we did end up getting was significant within moderating what we ended up having as just under 600 acres. We were dealing with Lockheed Martin. We were dealing with all of the evacuations on the east side, and then really trying to figure out those canyons. Those canyons in our modeling, in our CWPPs, can take 3 hours. People have large animals up there. We have a lot of equipment up there. Cell phone coverage isn't the best, so we were trying to figure out how long it would take, what we needed to do, which is why this surrounding area was all mandatory evacuations at right around 1 a.m. or so, just because of the access and egress issues. We didn't want to send anybody into the head of the fire, basically, and that's exactly what it was establishing. That's the modeling that we got the next day, and if you can't read it, I'll read it to you. We got that at right around 10 a.m., maybe a little earlier. It's been a couple years, but a 6-hour fire model that could have gone 2,000 acres, and as you can see a little bit, it's spread throughout the canyon there, and then once you get fire established here, it is a straight shot to 285. So that's essentially what we were looking at in the first 3 days of this fire. When we got that information, that's when we put everybody on pre-evacuation. And so those are all the planning units that we had evacuated for the quarry fire. And that's why you need to know your planning units, right? We want to make sure that you guys know how we make these decisions. It's not just on a whim. We use the best conditions we use the best modeling that we know we have, best information that we have, but we're always making decisions with incomplete data. So we decided to be safe. We decided to get everybody out as fast as possible, and then try and figure out what that suppression looked like. Those are simultaneous, and again, I will say it is a whole team effort. It's called Unified Command, and the fire district's working with the sheriff's office all the time within any of these incidents, even when they're small. Ultimately, like I said, it was just under 600 acres, and I can walk you through a little bit of what this looks like, but this was essentially the first 24-hour period. That honestly is not the fastest moving fire we could see here. And so all the information that's coming is incredibly important. But what we were able to do is keep that fire right along the canyon road there. Our crews engaged on the east and southeast side. And then we did some bulldozer action thanks to Open Space Parks and their coordination. And then we did actually end up burning some of this stuff out intentionally because of the steep terrain to wrap that whole thing up. And ultimately, again, a success story. It all stayed in the park, probably within 200 feet of private. So again, all the partners coming together, us having that plan. We want to reinforce that plan tonight. And I can answer some questions for you after everybody's presentation, but again, wanting to focus on the evacuation aspect of everything. So thank you.
So Chief Young said that was the start of the success story, which is the awesome part of it, right? Is that we have an opportunity to learn exactly what it takes for us to know how to handle these things when they come our way. So if a wildfire did threaten your neighborhood tomorrow, what would you wish you already knew? So in order to talk to us a little bit about that, I would like to introduce the Wildland captain from Conifer Fire, John Mandel.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to see so many people interested in your community and your safety and your neighbor's safety. And so this is hopefully something that you're going to take some valuable information back home and maybe change some of the stuff that you do and just maybe change some of the mindset that you have to actually be able to get through one of these big events with a little bit more peace of mind. So I'm going to talk about the planning units. So many of you probably know we have a CWPP, a Community Wildfire Protection Plan, and that was updated. It was signed in 2021. And when we were in the process of updating that, we did it jointly between, at that time, Inter Canyon Fire District and Elk Creek. And when we laid it all out, we started looking at the topography and what we were updating.
Did that? This one may not be as wise.
Okay, can you hear me still? All right. So, yeah, we decided as we were doing the update on the CWPP that based on communities and topography and fuels and the risk that we were seeing through the modeling, that it'd be a good idea to take what we were doing in a CWPP and make it something that's digestible, not only from that big overhead level of the fire district, but bring it down to a community level where you all can take action and help maybe change that fire risk within your communities. So we built out the planning units, and they are specific to communities and they're specific to certain areas for access and egress. All right. So with that, we developed the planning units. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, 'cause I'm flipping mics here. But, we use the planning units specifically for three things. One, we have a similar version to the planning units that you see, but they are actually tactical maps for, engagement in wildfire events for our incoming resources and us as well. So if you can think about it, we're not gonna put out the fire ourselves. Forest Fire, we had many agencies out here working with us. Some of them are coming from out of state. They have no idea what any of this looks like. So for us to have a tactical map that has water resources, addresses, where safety areas are for our resources, where they can store gear and all of that, they're able to walk up, scan a QR code, get that map on their phone, and they're able to go off to the races. We can talk and we're looking at the same data set. So that's one reason that we have the maps or the planning units. The second reason is for evacuations, which is the focus of tonight. So the sheriff's office has all of our planning units within their GIS database, and dispatch also has that. We're gonna hear a little bit from Jeff Tom tonight. But so when you're getting an evacuation, you'll get that evacuation via the name of that planning unit. So if it's gonna be, as we saw earlier, if it's gonna be Murphy Gulch, you'll get an evacuation notice saying, hey, Murphy Gulch is being evacuated. Now, if you know the planning units and you're in a planning unit adjacent to Murphy Gulch, you're not necessarily in the clear, are you? So we ended up doing pre-evac on some planning units. So think about, if you're gonna have a hard time maybe getting out of your house, if you need extra assistance, you've got animals, all of that stuff, sometimes it's a good idea to get things rolling before you actually are mandatory evacuation. And then the other reason we have planning units is for implementation. Again, I said we took that big high overview look of the district and we broke it down into planning units to empower you, the community members, to actually go out there and do something that's significant to change the risk within your communities. So that then came to the establishment of our community ambassador program. Our ambassadors are here tonight. They're wearing the red shirts. They got name tags on, and they're more than happy to answer questions for you. But what ambassadors do, they are that conduit of information from the district to the community and the community back to the district. So if it was myself sitting there answering all of your individual questions, I would do nothing all day than answer everybody's individual questions. So we have specific trainings for our ambassadors, and we try to instill in them the knowledge to where they can field any of the questions that you might have regarding mitigation, regarding home hardening, regarding evacuations, regarding how to sign up for lookout alert for getting notifications. Where's the best places to find resources on insect and disease, which now we're starting to see a lot more in the area. So the ambassadors are actual vetted volunteers for the fire district, and they are empowered to give you the education and the information that you require to actually get things done in your community. They will speak to not only our home assessment program, but they can speak to larger projects. So we've done roadside projects in communities. We've done large acre, we call it landscape scale mitigation, where we're doing maybe 10, 20 contiguous acres of mitigation. And they are there to drive that, to gather the community and
Shouldn't be.
maybe, can you hear me? Okay. Maybe that's the hook. I just need to get off the stage. So I'll speak up a little bit louder. So yeah, that drives a lot of what we do as far as projects and how do we reduce and change that risk. You saw the maps and they are all red for a reason. We are behind the eight ball, but it doesn't mean that we just throw up our hands and it's all over. It is we need to start working now and working together. We're seeing it already. We've got communities that have come together. They've done a significant amount of work, not only on their own personal residences, but as a community for community safety, such as roadside projects and stuff like that. So I would encourage you all to make sure you tie in with an ambassador tonight. I will throw the pitch out there that we do not have 100% coverage for all of our planning units as far as an ambassador representing each planning unit. So if you live in a planning unit that is not represented by an ambassador, please consider being an ambassador. Our ambassadors will be happy to talk to you about what the workload is and stuff like that. It is a volunteer position, so I encourage you to chat with our folks. So, how many people know what planning unit they live in? I know we went through this already. All right, and better yet, how many people do not know? All right, we're gonna walk you through it right now. And after all of the presentations, we're gonna have folks around on computers to actually sit there, and we've got the maps out there to help you figure out which planning unit you're in. But the process is fairly straightforward. You can scan that QR, it'll take you to the website, then you can find it. And on that website is going to be our planning unit map. On the map, top right corner, there will be a search function, and you can see it down in the bottom left. Oh, there you go, she's circling up there. So you've got the little magnifying glass to search, and it'll bring up search, find an address or place. In there, type in your address, hit enter, and it will zoom in on the map to your address. Now, when it zooms in, it's going to be just a dot, big dot in the middle of the screen, and you're not going to see any information regarding planning units. What you have to do is just zoom out a little bit, and then you'll see the planning units populate, and you'll know exactly which planning unit you are living in. A couple cool things on the website, which is not shown up here, is that if you have an ambassador representing your planning unit, there will be a little icon within your planning unit. And if you click on that, it'll give you your ambassador's name and your ambassador's email address. And it is a specific email address for that planning unit. It's not their personal email address or anything like that. I highly encourage you. Oh, there we go. I highly encourage you to reach out to your ambassador if you don't get tied in with them tonight, to get on their email list. We do not send out a bunch of spam and all of that other stuff. This is important information about topics that are related to the fire district or forest health that should be important to you. We live up here for a lifestyle, and we all moved up here to live in the trees, and it is our responsibility to take care of that dirt that we live on. It's not just the house, it is all the forest that we live in and that we own on our property. Yes, sir.
What if our community is not in a planning unit?
Where do you live?
Hidden Valley.
Hidden Valley should be in planning.
Just outside.
Okay, see us afterwards, we'll pull it up, and it might have been a glitch in where that polygon line ended up. You're right next to the pike.
Right next to the park, and then right above that is
Okay, yeah, we'll get it squared up afterwards. Yeah, come find me or Ben or Bethany, and we'll get you squared away. So highly recommend that you get connected with your ambassador. Highly recommend, if you do not have an ambassador in your planning unit, to consider being an ambassador. So a lot of this information can be found on our website. I encourage you to look over the website. A lot more of what we talk about here and other programs that we offer are mentioned on there. And one last thing I want to say. Is there anything that's on the next slide? Okay. One last thing that I want to say is that there is a sign-up sheet, or sign-in sheet, I should say, outside in the lobby where you walked in on the ambassador table. If folks want to sign in and put your address on there, we can actually tie you to your ambassador if you're having struggles figuring out the information from the website. So I'll be around afterwards for questions. And thank you for being here.
We're optimistic folks here. We're gonna keep shining this microphone because it's a little louder. I was just told there's 404 people here. Don't tell the fire marshal. But that's super awesome. And there's people online too. So hey, everybody out in Zoom land. Hopefully you can hear us and this is working okay out there. We like to, awesome, we're not hearing any complaints. So this is a little bit of the interactive part of the evening. Captain Mantle just talked us through how to find your planning unit, so we're gonna go just a little bit deeper there, so to make darn sure you know how. So the reason I put Elk Creek on that slide is because if you live in the Elk Creek district and you're looking at our website at Elk Creek, it's just a tiny bit different between the two. So that little square is gonna be in the upper right. And if you're in Conifer Fire, you're looking at the Conifer Fire website, that little square is actually kind of down the lower right side. So we'll see if this fancy link works here or not. If I just need to just go here. So I'll make this easy. So we're gonna walk through it. You can scan the QR code, they're around the room, you can talk to ambassadors. Here we are on Elk Creek's website, and then we'll go to Conifer Fire. So at Elk Creek, if you go here to Wildland, and then you go here to community ambassadors. I know that's probably a little bit confusing because we say planning unit, but the community ambassadors are like the caretakers, your wildfire partners in your planning unit, so that's why it's under this. And you want to get to know them anyway. So this is the map that John was referring to. You see this little square right up here? This is ArcGIS, and I will say it's a little bit fussy, so sometimes you have to kind of mess around a little bit. It'll zoom really far in and it'll zoom really far out. So if you already know what planning unit you live in, say you're like, yep, I know that I live in Jennings. I won't say where to go because I can see a little better. You can click on that little flame there and see how that person pops up. So Jim McAllister. Oh, thank you. Jim McAllister would be your community ambassador if you lived in Murphy Gulch, and there is Jim's email and you can reach right on out to him. Let's say you don't know where you live. So like it said, like John said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put in the address of the fire department, 11993. Oops. Oh, or whatever, we'll go with, yeah. So that's the fire department, 11993 Blackfoot Road. And see how it zooms right into Station 1. And like John said, it's like, well, I don't know what that is, I can't see. So you just gotta kind of zoom back out, and you can either do that with your fingers or you can just come up here and zoom out. Aha! Now we can see that's a purple planning unit that I can't see the name of. We'll zoom back in a little bit. See, it's a little Green Valley Ranch. See that? So sometimes you just have to finesse it a little bit. I know you probably can't read that right there. But that is kind of how you can find that. You can hit home, you can zoom back out. So just go in here and play with it a little bit. But that is how you would find your exact address if you go to Conifer, if you go to Elk Creek's website. And if you go to Conifer's website, you go to resident resources, find or become an ambassador. Become an ambassador, by the way. Same thing, but here it's on the bottom right, just like I showed you in that screen. You can click that, and then you can put in your address. I'm just gonna make something up, well, not in Ohio. Anyway, same thing, you put in your address, and it's gonna zoom you way in, and you're gonna zoom back out. This map is gonna also go further down, because we have these planning units down in the former North Fork district as well. Does that make any sense, how we look up our planning units? Okay, awesome. So, knowing your planning unit is one thing, but now you know what planning unit you live in, and now you need to know, well, if my planning unit is gonna get evacuated, how am I going to hear about that? So, the next thing we are going to talk about is emergency notifications. Who knows that they are already signed up, whether it's Lookout Alert or Code Red, you are already signed up to get, that's a lot of people before you came here. Who came here and went, oh, I signed up tonight, any new sign-ups tonight? Okay, a couple. And I know it can be great, awesome, it can be a little bit, it can be a little bit tedious to try and sign up here, but there's a lot of resources out there, so at the very least, take those pieces of paper and go home and know exactly how to sign up for those. Is anybody in here still like, I'm not really sure which one applies to me in my Park County, in my Jefferson County, is it Lookout, is it Code Red, I don't have it. Anybody kind of in that boat? And it's okay if you don't want to say, but there might be some people in here. So I know it can be confusing, right, when you're on the border, so we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But I would like to bring up Kevin Garcia. He is from JeffCom 911, and he is going to take us on a tour de force of emergency warning systems, and I'm going to put him back on his slides in order to do so. Hopefully that works. So now I'll use that one, and then we'll just see that for a while. Yes, that's right. Thank you, Kevin.
Excellent. First of all, thank you for showing up this evening. And we already have a pre-plan in place. Did you see the mic handoff? It was pre-planned. See? So every step makes everything easier to follow along. I'm Kevin Garcia. I'm with JetCom 911. I'm the Emergency Notification Systems Coordinator. Fancy words to make sure that you are getting notified for emergency notifications, all right? So for Jefferson County, we do use Smart 911 as our platform. I get a lot of questions about what is the difference between Lookout Alert and Smart 911? It's the same. Lookout Alert is our brand name. Our platform or vendor is Smart 911. So, best way to describe Smart 911. Smart 911 is 911 on steroids. It's an elevated way of being notified. With you, if you were just calling in 911 through the mobile phone, we're only getting your phone number into dispatch. If you're calling in, this is what I really want to be surprised by. How many in here have a landline? All right, it's dwindling still, but it's good to still see landlines. Okay, a landline shows just a little bit more with phone number, name, address. But if you're calling 911 with Smart 911 with a safety profile, we're marking off all these additional categories. People in the household, number of children, medication conditions, allergies, hazards, emergency shutoffs, emergency contacts, vehicle descriptions, number of pets. When you call 911 and you have properly filled out your safety profile, this information comes to the dispatcher. This is why it's so important that we have this information when you call 911, because we are getting a heads up about a full load amount of information versus if you're to call 911 and you're not able to talk to us, at least we have a general idea of what's going on. For example, we're going out on a structure fire. We want to know how many people are in the house. You can look at the profile and look, got 3 adults, 2 children, 6 dogs and cats. We know what we're looking for. Help us help you by being informed. So please take the time to fully fill out your profile. Lookout Alert, powered by Smart 911. It's a private, secure website. Individuals create their safety profile. This is valuable information they want to provide 911. Now, if you're on the other end that you're like, oh, I don't want to put as much information in there, that's fine. This is the capability of the amount of information that you want to put in there. I just highly recommend that if you feel that first responders, fire department, and law enforcement need to know something about you, please put it in your profile. This service is free. You're easily able to create a profile in multiple ways. Most of you did a profile by scanning the QR code or going to lookoutalert.co. I also want to give another advantage to the ones that are tech savvy. On your Android phone or your iPhone, you can also download the Smart 911 app. Both are very valuable in the amount of information that you receive and what we receive from you. Everything points you to the same platform, Smart 911. This is our sign-up page. If you were to go to lookoutalert.co. Registration is simple, just takes less than 5 minutes. However, if you have trouble with technology, I can help you out with that because there's multiple ways of doing it. Please don't get frustrated. This is why we have community events, when you have the time to build your safety profile. For the Conifer fire, when we first did launch a Lookout Alert, people weren't registered. So within that first day, we had 10,000 people sign up. That is not the time to be signing up for emergency notifications. So for you taking the steps now, you can review your information, make sure that everybody in your household is signed up. You can have multiple numbers, cell phone numbers, you can have multiple landline numbers. It's a pretty robust system. We're pretty proud of it. This is just kind of an example of what safety profile shows for you. Really nice. Just we're looking for a name, who's in the house, your address, and a phone number. If you have at least those three things in there and you don't want to put anything else in, this is what's highly recommended. Because one, your phone number is how we're going to get you the message. Two, it lets us know how many responders are looking for, and for at the residence if there's something else that's going on. What's really important is about when you build your profile, is the access of functional needs. Do you have mobility issues? Do you have additional medications? Anything that first responders may need to know about you during an evacuation. We're able to go and pull the data out during an emergency, and we can give that to the first responders and say that a specific plans unit, that there's 70 people that have signed up for their safety profile, and all 70 of them need a ride out. Or at least give us a heads up that we have a community that is going to need a little extra needs during the event. This lets the emergency managers for Park County, Jefferson County know exactly what the needs are for an evacuation area. Oh, we can't forget, you can also put your vehicle information in there, your pets, livestock, what's really nice about it, and then animal control will really love it if you have pictures of your dogs and cats. Because if they have to go in and assist and they're looking for your favorites, they have something that they can go off of instead of just a general description. So having a picture in there helps out. All right. So this is what we see. When you create your profile, that's what's on the left. And as the 911 dispatch center, this is what we see on the right when you call 911. Using the technology out of the mobile phone, we're able to specifically find the address faster because it's using several different points to locate and verify your address. Because if we're sending resources to you, dispatcher always wants to know what is the address of your emergency. This already fills that question for us. Your work address, your school address. You can put multiple addresses in your profile because if you need to be alerted about a different location, this is how you get those notifications. So I don't want you to just think that I just only need my home address. But if you work, play, and live in Jefferson County, you'll get those notifications on your cell phone for those specific addresses. To build on the access functional needs that we have allergic reactions, heart attack, or even a home invasion where we are looking for, you want to know as much information as we're responding. You're able to build that safety profile. Talk a little more about medical emergencies. Your children. We always have missing children calls. When you call 911 and your child's missing, and if you've updated your profile and you have a picture in there, that just helps us get this information out faster through the sheriff's office. Security and privacy. Decide, you are the key holder of this. You decide what information you want to put in your profile. 911 just cannot go in and access your profile. Only time that we get to see it is when you call 911 and that information comes to us. This is the same technology that your banks use to secure your information. It's pretty cool because we are not asking for financial information. So it's that secure. Smart 911 provides 911 call takers with additional location information. So I was talking about how the technology from the phone, comes to 911. And basically, it's mobile automatic location identification. We call it ALI for short. But this is how we verify every address in the county for us. And this is how we know and verify the address for sending resources to you. So Smart 911, along with Rapid SOS, Clearinghouse, several additional technologies all come together and merge into this so we can get this data into the dispatch center. How many of you use Wi-Fi calling? Have you gone into your Wi-Fi calling to verify that your address is actually in your Wi-Fi? Please take the moment to double check that. Because if you're to call 911 and you're using Wi-Fi and you haven't registered that address, we don't get anything when you call 911. So please take a few minutes to double check that your Wi-Fi address verification is showing up. However, if you're calling from 911 and the Smart 911, that's one point that we're able to verify. Lastly, and this is a lot of information, this is our JEFCOM partner agencies. We're at 28 agencies that we dispatch for JEFCOM. We're answering over a little 850,000 calls a year. Okay, so are you calling in, being prepared? We're able to also let you be prepared by emergency notifications, evacuations, shelter in place, police activity, missing children. This is how that message goes out to you. Now, by a show of hands, June 3rd, we did a system-wide test. How many of you went into your profile to update? Because I saw that you were like, oh, I got it, but how many of you went into your profile and updated? All right, see, this is why we have these community events. When you get that notification of just a simple reminder, Smart 911 sends a reminder out every 6 months. So I get a question like, if I don't up my registration, does that information not come over to us? You will still receive emergency notifications, but the information that comes to the dispatcher will not come to us. You actually have to just go into your profile, acknowledge that either that there's no changes, and then that information will then come to us. That's the only reason why you get a reminder for your email or Smart 911. Please take the time, either download the Smart 911 app, once again, on your Android or smartphone, iPhone. Register with the lookoutalert.co. And if you're in Park County, please sign up for both emergency notifications. Because a fire does not know jurisdictions. It's fast moving. We want to give you as much time on the notification so you're able to get out. I will be at the end of the tables here. If you need additional help, I'm just verify that you're signed in. You need me to walk you through downloading the app. I'm here to do that. On the bottom of the worksheet, there's also a lookout alert assistance line. If you just, oh, I can't deal with the technology, I will walk you through it.
Are you dialing 911 through the app or using the phone's normal hit the buttons and then it tags in and understands?
Yes, just when you dial regularly through your landline, cell phone, that profile will come in. The reason why is that at the beginning that you register that phone number, that's what's pulling that data over to us. Good question. Any other questions? She asked if you have to dial 911 through the app. You do not. Any phone number that you have registered and you call 911, that profile will come to us. Yes, ma'am.
How similar that you want to be notified, but you don't necessarily live.
That's fine. Just put that address in there. You can have multiple addresses in your profile. And when a notification happens to be close to that address, you would just get a notification.
To your house. Okay, while you were gone, how would they get notifications?
Somebody staying at their house now.
They would have to register. Yes.
We highly recommend it, especially like Airbnb where tourists are coming in, we recommend them to just quickly sign up. What's nice about Smart 911, it's a national program, so once you have the profile built and you travel with your cell phone, you can also get notifications from other agencies that are powered through Smart 911.
This is where I'm not checking the Wi-Fi, I see the Wi-Fi measures, I didn't know that.
If you just go into your router, under the, it says Wi-Fi 9 emergency calling, you just go in there and it'll have you put your address in there. Okay, we'll do one more question.
Yeah, I'm curious, if you guys get the location data outside the house, like, to get the location data at all?
Through Rapid SOS, yes, we'll get longitude, latitude. The latest thing is the Z coordinate, so it also do elevation. But the most triggering point for it is on the address point. So we do the plans and a polygon, which is a geo notification. It recognizes that address, then you'd be alerted to that notification. Is how that technology is there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Kevin. I didn't mean to cut questions short there, but we do have a dedicated question and answer session at the end. So if you had a question for Kevin that you didn't quite get to, hold on to that and we'll get to it at the end. Who learned something new during that presentation? We didn't know we had to do our wireless thing, so now we're going to go do that. So that was great. Thank you so much, Kevin, for teaching us all that. And I don't know, Kevin, this was one thing really quick that I think some folks did ask the difference about that you did have in your slide, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when people ask about wireless emergency alerts, or the WEA, that is like a geofenced situation, correct?
This one's pretty important. So with iPods is a non-opt-in notification. This is a forced message that I will send to your phones. This is like for that Amber Alert type notification. If we are sending this notification, you are already late to the party. So the idea is for you to be opted in to get these notifications. But if it's a fast-moving event, we will alert to the iPods platform, which is the integrated public alerting warning system. So for WEA, for the Amber Alert, that's a wireless emergency alert. That's that notification that you'll get on top of your phone. It makes a couple of warbles over your phone. You can't silence it, and you'll get that notification. For the opt-ins, that's where you get to choose how you receive that notification. Text message, email, voice phone call, or get the notification through the Smart 911 app. Now, if it's really, really fast moving, we're going to alert a message to the EAS, which is the Emergency Alert System. How many of you on Sunday, early morning, you hear it on your TV, it's a couple beeps, and it says, hey, we're just doing a Sunday test. We would alert you TV and radio stations that we have an emergency going on. And the last one is the NOAA message alerts. And basically, who in here has a NOAA radio system? How many of you do not have cell phone service at your home? Please look into purchasing the NOAA radio. The NOAA radio will always, it's a radio frequency that we can broadcast. It's what the National Weather Service uses to broadcast severe weather. And we'll also put our message through that. And that is the iPod system.
Thanks for that addition, Kevin. That was super helpful. I'm glad you brought up the NOAA radios. I think Liz is going to talk to us a little bit about some NOAA radios later on as well when we chat to you guys about being ready. So the whole goal of tonight is obviously for you guys not to be late to the party, as Kevin said. We don't like to be late to the parties when it comes to emergency alerts. So before you leave tonight, please make sure you either are or know how to sign up for Lookout Alert for Code Red. Make sure your Smart 911 profile is complete or planning to be complete when you get home. And then know which emergency systems apply to your home. So who in here is in Park County, if you don't mind kind of giving us an idea? Okay, so a small amount. So in Park County, you also want to make sure that you're on the Code Red system, and Kevin has that information at his table as well. We highly recommend if you're anywhere near the border, you just sign up for both. And we have, when you look at your planning unit maps, you'll also notice that we have a handful of planning units, I think there's 4 or 5, that are in both counties. So that planning unit covers both counties. We also recommend you just sign up for both of those alert systems. There's my little pointer, here we go. Okay, so now that we've talked about knowing where you live and what planning unit, so you know how you're going to get evacuated, and we've talked about how you are going to actually get that message, a lookout alert or code red that you're being evacuated. Let's talk a little bit about what to expect during a wildfire evacuation. And this is kind of that part where we want to remind you that it all can seem a little scary, and it very well can be if you're actually having to evacuate, but you're not in this alone. That's why we're all here together tonight to try and talk honestly about what these things could look like so that you are prepared ahead of time. I've got a quick video for you here, but I gotta jump over to YouTube. Okay, watch closely because I'm gonna ask you some questions at the end. This is people escaping from the campfire in Butte County in Northern California. I believe this was 2018, one of the largest fires that has ever happened in California. There's no sound on purpose. There's the helicopter. How many people have a little bit of a oh moment there? So, what time do you think it is in that video? What's that? Yeah, it's about 10:30 in the morning. Doesn't it look like they're driving through the night? Yeah. So again, this is just sort of reality of what we want you to consider ahead of time as you're making your plans, what you could experience during a wildfire evacuation. Again, one reason to tell you to go early, right? If you get sent to evacuate, leave, so you don't have to drive through that later. What do we think we're gonna see in an evacuation like that? What's gonna be in the way of us? Traffic, right? Lots of congestion could absolutely be there. Everybody's trying to get out, obviously, right? What else? Down trees, absolutely, right? Roads could be blocked. The later we wait, the more trees are burning and falling down, right? Somebody said wildlife, yeah, they're trying to get out too, right? So you're trying to look out for the fire, meanwhile the elk are running across the road, right? What's one of the big ones we saw here? Smoke, right? I mean, any of you who've driven through thick fog up here in Conifer, right? You know how bad the visibility can be. Smoke does the same kind of thing. We've been experiencing some smoke around here lately too, just in the mornings and evenings, and even then it can be hazy. And that's a whole other ballgame, right? So, you know, along with the traffic, the animals, the smoke, the reduced visibility, right? Just your mental state of trying to get out of that situation, everything's changing too, right? The conditions are changing, the fire's moving, the wind changes, and also the fire's moving in a different direction. We see that happen a lot, you know? And the information can change, right? So what's the other thing that we all get a little freaked out about up here that could change depending on where the trees are falling and where the fire's going and what's going on? What's that? Your escape route, right? How many of you live in a one-way out neighborhood? Yeah, a lot of us here do, right? So, you know, some of the times people ask, well, what's our escape route for wildfire? Unfortunately, the answer is often, it depends, right? Because we don't know where that fire is going to go or what it's going to look like. And you may have to just kind of keep your thinking cap on when you're making that evacuation. It's one of the reasons, and we'll talk about it a little later, that we talked to you about knowing your evacuation routes ahead of time, driving your neighborhood during the day, driving your neighborhood at night, making sure you know your options should one be blocked and you have any other option to move away from that area. So along with the conditions that we just want to be honest and real about what they could look like. So let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff going back to the quarry fire that we saw. You guys saw us, we talked about what planning unit you live in, that's how you're going to get evacuated. We talked about how you're going to get that evacuation message. Part of the question here becomes, well, what am I going to hear? Right? I don't know, is Rubenstein in the house? No, it's not, okay. So during the quarry fire, you saw that we used the terms evacuation and pre-evacuation. That's pretty common. Really, if you're in a pre-evacuation, that means you should be ready to go. Hopefully your go bag is always packed, but if it's not, this is the time to do it. Gather your people, your pets, your medication, everything important. We're going to talk about the 6 P's later. Keep listening for information, because that pre-evac can change to an evac at any moment. Leaving early is always your choice, and I really want to stress that. Sometimes people are like, oh, I'm a pre-evac, should I go, should I not go? I work a lot of information in wildfires, and we get a lot of phone calls, and people are like, I'm on pre-evac, should I go? How comfortable are you? How long will it take you to get out of the house? Do you need physical assistance? Are you disabled? Right? Do you have some medical condition that's going to slow you down? Do you have pets that are going to slow you down? We always encourage people, if you feel worried, go, right? There's no harm in leaving early and you don't have to wait until we say evac. Evacuation order, that does indeed, or evacuation, that does indeed mean leave immediately. Go, do not wait. Grab your things, grab your pets, grab your people, grab your pictures, go. Use the safest route you can, follow all the directions from law enforcement, and do not mess around here. So the reason we have this terminology up here is we've been in conversation with the county, and there's a potential that some things are changing soon with some terminology. It is changing. So we want you guys to know that while you could hear, you have been hearing evac and pre-evac, sometime soon here you could be hearing what's called an evacuation warning versus an evacuation order. As of today? Oh, okay. If you're getting evacuation, you're going to hear warning or order. That is basically the equivalent to pre-evacuation and evacuation. Just kind of say that in your head a few times, because it took me a minute too to go, okay, wait, warning versus order. So a warning is, we're warning you, things could get dangerous here, and an order is, we order you to go. You gotta go. So just get used to that new language. There's a couple other things that the county is starting to work with as well, and it's pretty new, so we're sharing it here with you tonight with their permission, and we feel it's important for you to know. There's something called high-low sirens. They use this in other places, other countries. I was told I have to do the example. It's kind of like the is that like the high-low goes up and down? I know you want to hear it again. So it used to be the law enforcement officers were running through your neighborhoods trying to knock on doors. That's not easy up here, right? We're super spread out. So what they're going to is if you hear that siren driving around your neighborhood and you know there's a fire in the area and they are zipping through your neighborhood going wee woo, wee woo, wee woo, that means evacuate. Okay, so that's brand new. The county's bringing that out as these high-low sirens. Lastly, and I know this one sounds a little scary, but there's also a shelter in place. You guys have probably heard of these before when there's been like some nutty person running around the mountain, you know, they don't know where they're at and they got a gun, right? We hear shelter in place. So that could be for some other type of emergency, such as that, but it could also be for fire. And I know that's going to be scary to think of, but that's one of the reasons we talk about defensible space. And that's a great segue into going, if everything were blocked and I were at my house, how defensible is my home? Right? So we have resources out there. That's a great reason to be in touch with your community ambassador to talk about how you can harden your home against ember showers and against fire. Leave early. It will give you more choice. Leave early, leave early, leave early, leave early, leave early. I can't say that enough because I've seen the result of people not leaving early. And you guys are watching the fires across the states when people are having to get out when they didn't want to have to get out.
I have one quick thing. We were in meetings today with folks in the sheriff's office on the wildfire side. And one of the reasons, and I think it's important for you all to know, one of the reasons why they're changing, and I know everybody's scratching their head, why are they changing something we all figured out what the nomenclature was. We are aligning, Jefferson County is aligning with neighboring counties, so that we're all using the same verbiage. So that way, if you're in Park County, or Park County is hopefully coming on board, but if you're in Boulder County or Laramie County or Adams County or Douglas County and a few others, the evacuations, all the wording, everything that's coming across on the alert will be the same. So there's continuity across all of the county boundaries. So that is the reason why, and we just want to make sure that you understand that they're not just changing it to change it and make everybody's life kind of confusing. Yes, ma'am.
Resources where like you could have got down because you have go back that.
That would be shelter in place. Shelter in place is typically used for something like a hazmat situation or an active shooter situation where you're safer staying in your house. If you are in a situation, and I will never say to you, you're safe staying at home. If you're in a situation where you're looking out the window and you cannot drive your car down your driveway because the situation is so bad out there, I would suggest you stay inside and then wait for the fire front to pass. I will never say to you directly, your best place to be is just stay in your house because you're safe. Your best place to be is to evacuate. Second best, if everything's cut off, yes, inside your dwelling.
Thanks for that addition, John. Leave early so you never have to make that decision, right? That's kind of one of the things we're getting here. So look, leave early. Gives you more options. I must have been thinking that when I made these slides. If you don't feel safe, don't wait. Gives you more time to prepare, more route options, less traffic, less congestion, all the things we just talked about, more time to make good choices. Let's talk a little bit about getting information. So here it's all going on, we're in evacuations, the fire's happening, we're trying to get information. Where do we get good information? Because we all know what happens on social media. And everybody's got a perspective on what's real and what's not. So, official sources, all right, go to official sources. What do we mean by that? The sheriff's office directs evacuations. They make that choice. They are often making it in conjunction with fire districts and fire managers who are working that fire, and they're all having conversations about what's going on, just like we did with the Corey fire, right? Sheriffs and firefighters are talking, going, man, we think this fire is going to move this way. If that wind changes, that neighborhood's in trouble, right? So the sheriffs are like, okay, yeah, got it. We're gonna evacuate. But they make that decision. So watch their platforms. Watch the sheriff's platforms. Your fire district will often also have incident updates and community information. They're just not making those decisions for evacuations, but we certainly will share them often the moment they're made. Emergency alerts, go back to that. Can't say it enough, right? Lookout alert, code red, wireless emergency alerts, pay attention to those. Let's talk about watch duty for a second. So here's the thing, watch duty is awesome. They've done a really incredible thing. We all use it, okay? All the firefighters have watch duty on their phone. It's super helpful for situational awareness, especially when there's lots of fires going on in the state and what's going on. Here's the caveat I have to give you about watch duty. It is not an official source of information, and sometimes they get it wrong. I've had to call them on fires and say, no, you got that wrong. Change that. It does, again, love watch duty. Doesn't mean they're not doing a good thing, but they listen to the radio and they just take what they get from the radio and they put it straight on watch duty. Sometimes that information is really fresh and not yet 100% accurate, or just really needs to be verified, right? So use watch duty, love watch duty, but just be aware that it is not always official. You should always go back and double check, especially for something as important as evacuations, from the official sources. So let's talk, now we've talked about a lot of scary stuff. Let's go back to that good story about, but hey, we were ready when it happened. So we're going to talk a little bit about preparing your household for evacuation and preparing ahead of time so it's less stressful if that would happen. Every household's different, of course, and what you need is different, but we're going to give you some kind of basics that really should apply to everybody. And in order to do that, I'm going to invite up Liz Medina, who is our lead community ambassador. And by the way, if you just for community ambassador, that you can So Bethany spoke a lot about how stressful evacuation can be. So being prepared ahead of time can help take some of the stress out of it. We're not going to get into a lot of detail tonight because every household is different. But instead, we're going to give you a framework of things that you can adapt to your own circumstances. So we're going to start with the 6 Ps. Remember, the goal of an evacuation isn't to save your belongings. It's to save your life. The 6 Ps will help you remember the necessities to prepare before an evacuation. So we have number 1, people and pets. Number 2, papers and important documents. 3 is prescriptions, eyeglasses, and medical equipment. Number 4 is plastic. Think credit cards, debit cards, and cash is good too. Number 5, phones, chargers, and personal computers. And number 6, prized possessions, but only if there's time. Choose your prized possessions ahead of time. Getting in an argument about whether Grandpa's watch or your signed Broncos jersey is more important is not a great way to spend your time when you're trying to leave. Be sure to note the locations of your Ps in your written evacuation plan so that you don't waste time looking for them. Now we'll talk about go bags. Every household member, including your animal, should have their own go bag. That way everyone has the essentials that they need. Set a calendar reminder to remind yourself at least once a year to check and refresh your go bags. Make sure everything in them is still current and updated today and that it still meets your needs. Also know that you may not be home when a wildfire happens. So if you keep your go bags in your vehicles, they're always where you are. Rotary Wildfire Ready and Ready Set Go are both great resources to give you suggestions of things to keep in your go bags. There's links to those on the handouts that you got on your chair, and we also have hard copies at the ambassador table. Household communication plan. Don't assume that all your household members will be in the same place during an evacuation. Some may be at school or at work or at other activities. During a disaster, local phone networks can become overloaded, and it can actually be easier to reach someone who's in another city or state than it is to reach somebody just down the road. So choose a trusted friend or relative who lives outside the area and make sure that everyone in your household knows how to reach them. Keep important phone numbers, such as your out-of-area person, in your wallet and also in your go bag. You may lose your phone or your battery may die. Also choose a familiar location outside the area where all household members can meet if you become separated. And now we'll talk about vehicle readiness. Evacuations often mean heavy traffic and long travel times. Make it a habit to keep your gas tank half full, or if you have an EV, half charged at all times. That's part of mountain living. Fuel and charging stations may be closed or have no power during an evacuation. It's another good reason to keep your car full. Ensure that all drivers in your household know how to use the garage door latch if the power is out. And also make sure that they can reach the cord. Consider taking fewer vehicles when you evacuate. That will be less cars on the road, making evacuation more efficient, and also less likely that you and your family members will get separated. And lastly, keep in mind that your usual routes may not be accessible during an evacuation. Determine alternate routes now and practice them at day and at night, because as you saw in the video, daytime may look like night. All right. Liz is catching us back up. Thank you, Liz. So just a couple more things on that for the preparation. Liz hit on a bunch of stuff that's super important. Not forgetting your animals having their own go bag. I think that's a really important one to remember, especially if you have large animals and they need, where's their halters and which trailer are they going, and just having a plan for all of that. So that brings us to, well, what does that mean? Who do I think about? I think a great question to ask is who depends on me, right? Who is depending on you? Is it your children? Is it your older adults, whether they're in your house or whether they are your neighbors who maybe need your assistance and are looking to you to assist them if something does happen? Disabilities, functional needs, your pets, your livestock, and we talked about neighbors. So again, writing these things down, having an actual written plan of how are you going to attend to those audiences. Oh, there you go, write it down, practice it. So identify those alternative routes, as Liz said, choose a family meeting place, review it every year. Sit down with your kids, if you got kids, make it an activity, make it a family safety activity, a wildfire safety activity. We highly, highly encourage you to write this down. There's some resources on those sheets that we put on your chairs to do that with as well. So we just want you to remember, as scary as some of this sounds, like you're not in this alone. This is a great community coming together to talk about these things. We have great partners out of the room who can help you with tools. There's people, there's organizations, there's our community ambassadors to help you with your questions, help connect you to these resources. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of those resources and just remind you who they are and what they do, and then you'll have an opportunity to talk to them a little bit more later as well. You heard a lot from Kevin Garcia. It's here again because we can't stress it enough. Sign up for Lookout Alerts, sign up for Smart 911, sign up for Code Red. Kevin himself told you, if you don't love technology, you're like, I just can't figure this gosh darn thing out, give him a call. He's an awesome dude and he'll help you out over the phone, making that happen for you guys. And you can pick up QR codes as well out in the lobby as well. We've got a big stand out there with one. Let's talk about our animal friends for a little bit. We have some folks here from the animal evacuation volunteers, from HEAT and from the county. So I had a good conversation with somebody the other day, who might be here in the audience, I don't know, on one of our social medias. And, we were chatting about how if a fire comes and she works in Denver 45 minutes away and her horses are there, her dogs are there, her chickens are there, right? What if she can't get home? How do we get those animals out, right? For a lot of us, that's like sometimes the biggest heartbreak we think about when we think about fire. So have a plan, have a proxy for those four-legged loved ones in your life, right? Write it down. Who's your neighbor that's willing to come into your house and scoop your pups and your cat when you're not home and you're 45 minutes away? Do you live in a horse community? Do you live in a cattle community? Ranchers are obviously really great at this, right? Helping each other out and figuring out how to get those cattle out. And that can be hard. Like, you guys are watching the Aspen Acres fire. At one point, the sheriff just said, cut the fences. Like, that's not what a rancher wants to hear, right? You can't get them to cut the fences. That's how bad that fire got. So just thinking ahead of time for our large animal friends and our small animal friends, who can help us get those out, and HEAT and the animal evac people here are a great resource for that. So our animal evacuation volunteer folks are currently down. There's a group of them down at the Aspen Acres fire helping evacuate small animals from that fire. And that's kind of what they focus on. They focus on the small critters during emergency. And they'll work under the direction of county and emergency officials, and they have a dedicated trailer to get those little folks out of there. And then we have Jeffco HEAT here. They're an amazing resource as well. They work closely with large animals. And they're a nonprofit organization that helps animals during wildfires, floods, and other natural disasters. And they'll coordinate with the sheriff's office. They've definitely done some work here in this district for past fires, coordinating getting those animals out during those disasters as well. So we definitely recommend that you visit Scott Holiday and his folks at that table here as well with HEAT. And there's other animal rescue. These aren't the only animal rescue organizations that are in this area, or animal evac organizations. There's others that would partner as well and help, but we encourage you to find out about those and learn from their resources. And then of course we have Jefferson Animal Control here, and thanks for being here. They obviously work with lost animals, missing animals as well, but they partner with those other organizations that we were just talking about with HEAT and the animal evacs teams to help get animals out of wildfire situations as well. So we encourage you to visit with those folks. Other resources, we can't say it enough, but all our red shirts stand in the back of the room there. You guys have heard a lot of information here today, and it may be swimming in your heads a little bit, but go to that map we showed you how to get to on Elm Creek or Conifer and find out who that person is. Because when you're home and you're like, man, that was a lot, and what about defensible space and all that? Like, they are your people and they will guide you to those resources. And if you are not aware of our wildfire prepared program, speaking of defensible space, and that's another really good resource to make sure that you can get a home assessment and find out how to help make your home more defensible. Our folks from that program will spend a few hours with you and go over what needs to be done at your home. They'll give you a full report and they'll help you figure out how to move forward with those personalized recommendations and make your home a safer place to be. So we're about to move into a little bit of a Q&A, and then I want to make sure we leave time for you to go back out as well. But I do really want to encourage you again. I'm going to say it over and over. Before you leave tonight, find it or know how to find a planning unit, meet with your community ambassador, they might be here, or find out who they are, visit your partners and ask those questions. We have some folks available here to do that. If you will, we have something. Yes, please. Yes, of course you can.
Hi everybody, Officer Figueroa with Jeff Animal Control. I ramble a lot. I'm sleepy because I just got back from the Aspen Acres fires this morning. We just over there and we helped out a lot and I learned a lot. Things that I wanted to clarify is that whenever you guys need to evacuate your animals, the point of contact is actually not 911 or the non-emergency dispatch center. It would be the phone number for the animal control unit in Jefferson County. We know what we know what to ask you guys to get the right information on how to get those animals safe from there. We would ask about the gate codes, about any garage door codes and things like that. If anybody doesn't know that phone number, let me know. I'll be outside. I have business cards and it will be in there. The other thing that we ask for is that you guys know that for this Aspen Acres fire that we just helped, we learned a lot too. But we had to take over because they were overwhelmed. So a team of 14 people from Jefferson County were able to handle everything in the state fairgrounds for Pueblo with 1,300 animals. So know that your animals are already taken care of, and whatever you guys do to help us is very much appreciated. Whatever information you guys have for us, it's valid and it's what we need. So please communicate with us as much as you can because that's how we are able to be this successful. So your team here got your back and let us know whatever you guys need.
Yeah, but yeah, the folks we were just talking about, trying to get back into a fire to get your animals can create problems as well and cause more clogged, congested roads, and so calling animal control. And thank you so much for, we had a conversation, we were trying to get a little bit more connected ahead of time. And when she came in, she was like, I've been down in Pueblo taking care of 1,400 animals. So that was pretty amazing. Thank you guys for your work down there, taking care of those critters. Thanks for that important information. That's really, I think, a big key to taking care of our animal friends. So if you remember nothing else, know your planning unit, sign up for emergency alerts, make a plan, be ready to leave early, and know who your trusted sources of information are. Was this helpful tonight? Did people learn some things? Thank you. And yes. Oh, we're gonna move into some questions and answers. So I see one up here and I see one down here. So we've got, 20, 25, 30 minutes to do this. Plus you can continue visiting people outside now and after as well. But let's go ahead and start with the questions. And I'm just gonna give it a quick pause because there's some folks leaving. So I want to make sure we can hear the questions. So we'll just give it 1 minute for anybody who's wanting to head out to do that so we can pay attention to what you got. And then folks, if you want to bring chairs up, folks who would be here to answer questions, all of our speakers, all of our presenters, we can bring some chairs up here and then we'll get some questions answered. Okay, go ahead, we're gonna, Chief Ware's gonna bring a microphone around to some of the folks that had questions. And I think he's starting on there and then we'll come right here, okay? You might have to hear me. No cameras, you got, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, got you to 8 down, okay, great. Oh, that's great, I'll number you guys, if that's okay, we'll go from there, go ahead. Okay, the question was, are there any mock evacuation exercises planned? You want to address that?
Yeah, in terms of mock evacuations, we have nothing planned at the moment, but working with the county, that is a goal for next spring. It takes a fair amount of coordination, and with the new systems in place, we felt it would be good for hopefully next spring, but we'll certainly push that out when we have the ability to.
Thank you, Chief. Number 2, where'd she go? Oh, okay.
I am unclear where you go to find the information of what evacuation route you should take.
So we're not gonna necessarily tell you what evacuation route to take. Just like our friends at the Sheriff's Office going to Pueblo, when we have a fire, we have a significant amount of outside resources coming. And so to the best of our ability, we're gonna direct you as much as possible. But that's where Bethany's talking about you knowing the routes that you need to take in that emergency. Yeah, so that's, if it's in that immediate area, that's where the sheriff's offices are really gonna direct you to that. And all of the emergency services would help direct you to that. The one way in, one way out neighborhood, that's it, right? So trying to get as much information out as possible, that's in our size up for a fire, is exactly where it is and it's moving. And so hopefully we can get a little bit of that information out as fast as possible. But in a fast moving event, it can go in 3 directions. And so trying to make some of those decisions is kind of also on the homeowner in that escalating event as well.
I know we got some folks, I had number 3, we had a few numbers, was it 3 in the back there?
Right here.
Oh, right here, sorry.
I requested a wildfire assessment at the beginning of the year, from property to and I didn't hear back from anybody for a couple months. Governor Connolly reached out to me and she said that we're not scheduling anybody, and she'd get back to me in like a year. Is that still the case?
The question was about wildfire stuff, and how long it may take to get one.
Yeah, so we've had to wait for our home sites. I'll be honest, it's long. We don't have the resources to push out all these intensive home assessments like we would like. We did get a grant this year to get a second one, so we're starting to move through some of those. We're also working with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office to help move more of that forward. They're an extremely valuable resource, and we know we're backed up within that. But we're trying as fast as we can to get through those. They take about 4 hours, and so it's just a resource intensive. We do offer it. It's a great program, but I'm just gonna be honest with you, we're backed up. We're a small department, we're a small collaboration organization.
And I get that. Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be a year still. Is this still gonna be a year, right here?
I'm hoping that we can get to most or all of them by this fall, but people do keep signing up. So as long as you're in the queue, we don't just skip everybody, it's just kind of that waiting period. So we're trying to chunk them out as fast as we can. Again, that partnership with the county should help that, but that is gonna take a little bit of time to stand up as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sir, that's a good suggestion. I'm just looking at, Colorado State Forest Service does have a lot of guidelines generally to get you.
There you go. So my planning unit is under pre-evacuation for evacuation warning, and I choose to evacuate. Is it beneficial to leave a note, like on my front door or garage door, saying that residents and pets have evacuated? Go ahead.
Absolutely. So when an area's been evacuated, if we have the time and the resources available, we will start doing a home-to-home check and make sure that people are evacuated and start doing an assessment for what the property looks like as far as efforts needed to possibly have it more resilient to a fire. Getting there and finding the note on the house saying, hey, I'm evacuated, the house is empty, that gives us the ability to update that information quicker, and we can move on to the next property as we're trying to move through all of the demand that is caused an issue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, great question. I have words for number 5, couple of. Okay. Minute number 5, okay, we'll come over here and then we'll bounce back over there, because I know there's some folks looking over there too. Okay. First, thank you for this. I learned a lot, and I used to be one of the ambassadors, and I learned more. Is it true though, is it helpful for us to remove propane tanks out of the homes into the streets and throw tanks off the back?
So we would recommend, if you have the time, if you don't have the time, you need to get out, please do get out. We will take care of it, we can take care of it. Moving propane tanks, and you can just throw in the garage or something like that, it's fine. Moving deck furniture into a garage, it's fine. If we don't have the space or the ability to do that, moving them away from the structure is fine. Propane tanks, a lot of times it's not what's going to burn your house. It'll be the house compromising the propane tank. So, yeah, it's if you have time to do some of that, that's great. If not, please do evacuate and we can just behind you if we have enough resources and start doing exercise.
So my question is kind of school related. So I don't know if there's an answer, but let's say you did an evacuation order while your children are at school. What happens? Do we try to get our children from school, or does the school get evacuated on its own? That's just a question.
Yeah, so that's a nightmare situation for us too, right? And so we're actually working with the county as usual to help prepare for that. So most of the time, like this building, it's one of the more hardened structures that we have. And shelter in place is a real possibility for the kids there. And so what that does is we use PIOs like Bethany here to get as much information out as possible, and then we coordinate with the school system. So we would coordinate with the principals, we would coordinate with all their communications to allow parents to know what is happening. But in a fast moving event like that, that might be the best option. That is certainly something that we don't take lightly, and we're trying to prepare even more for those types of situations. We wouldn't work outside of the current school system for notifications and everything like that. We had an event a couple of years ago where we shut down the highway due to a really nasty accident. One of the chief's first calls was to the school emergency manager to help figure out how to get parents around or get kids out and do all those types of things. So it's very much part of the coordination that we do with emergency management, sheriff's offices, and the school system. But it is a possibility, and we're looking at mitigations around some of those things to make it as hard as possible if that is the necessity.
That's a great question, thank you. We have other questions over here? You have to talk a little louder in this particular microphone.
There was a reference on one of the slides to something called a non-survivable road. That scared me, what's that?
So that term came from the company we use in our CWP. It's based off of some of the fire behavior models that we had, run some of what you would take into account within terrain and vegetation. And so a non-survivable road is generally what you could see if that 30 by 30 pixel within a mapping scenario is under extreme conditions. And so don't worry about that so much. Think of the fire that you saw evacuating within the video, but to a greater extent to where it's actually impacting people in their cars. And so that's where that term came from. Really what that does for us is prioritize where to put our mitigation work. And so we're doing roadside mitigation. We're doing a lot of mitigation work with all of our partners in the Up-South partnership with the county in order to moderate that fire behavior along the roadway. But it's really just a measurement of flame length and fire behavior that could impact the roadway. It can be for sure. It certainly can be your normal neighborhood roads. We took into account all the roads that we have within our GIS system for some of that. And what the nice part is a lot of your neighborhood roads, a lot of that risk can be reduced by just tackling your defensible space and moderating that fire behavior along the roadway.
That's one of the really good opportunities to work with your community ambassadors too, when neighbors come together and start creating not just defensible space around their own homes, but in their whole neighborhood. That's when roads start to become much more survivable as well. Other questions? Any other questions? Great.
So when we have a hose, we have a hose that has a, trigger on the end. Turn that on? Does that help you guys?
So leaving a hose out is possibly helpful. But don't take the time to do anything for this. What I would suggest to do is get a home assessment and start doing the work on your defensible space to moderate that from the vegetation. Perfect. But keeping a hose out, if we're there, could potentially be helpful with help refill a truck or something like that. But we would generally find the resources that we need within that. So I would focus on getting out.
Any other questions in the audience? Or between the audience? Yes, everyone.
So I live in Oak Falls Ranch right next to Staunton State Park. And for the last 23 years, we've been asking Elk Creek Fire about evacuation routes other than in and out of South Road. Has there been any additional conversations on private property that and get out of that? And then also with Staunton State Park, has there been more conversation with the park manager what they would do when people go back?
Yeah, so we work with Staunton State Park exact lot. We've toyed around some of the roadway issue, but the problem is the terrain through the park. And really getting people through there is an issue. And so right now, that's not a go, unless it's a complete rebuild of some of the road systems there. That 2-track that you're thinking of is just not really a road that we want to send people down.
They've actually fixed the road back to the old tallest dam.
Yeah.
Dam, so that road, that back to there is actually in good shape now.
Yeah, and within those scenarios, there might be a possibility to use some of that, but at the same time, looking at some of the fire mitigations along your roadway within the one way in, one way out. What we haven't really necessarily thought about too is the wedding venue there or any of the junctions that we can hold people at as that fire moves past and we need people out there. We did do a significant project in Stone State Park with hell logging. And we're gonna continue to do that work in order to help protect the communities around the park. And we've also prioritized, around the Elk Falls area, which is why I got some of the chipping days, that you did this year.
Thanks for that. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, I've got a horse and a pony, and, I've got a horse and a pony and a trailer, but the trailer's floor isn't very good. And I do have a piece of plywood, so I'm wondering, should I send the trailer out at this point to be repaired? Or should I put the plywood in and try to, my horse is also not very good with trailers. What do I do?
Experts in the field?
What do I train her to the trailer with the plywood? Or do I send it out for the repair so quick and try to, like, I don't know.
Like in an evacuation situation, you mean?
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She's a trailerable horse, but not with that trailer. She's broken into the trailers.
Yeah.
We had one instance, I'm over here, you were trying to talk to me.
Well, I was trying, but it didn't
We
work.
haven't seen each other in 16 years.
Oh.
He's an antique firefighter. Lockheed Martin. But we had one neighbor that grabbed a trailer with a horse in it, or had loaded the neighbor's horses. And unfortunately, the floor wasn't any good. They got to 470 and 285 enforcement through the floor of the trailer.
Did they put plywood over it or?
No, if you're gonna do it, either do it 100%, but you're also looking at the cross members in there that are made out of metal. A lot of times they rust over the years. The best thing to do would be to take it down, have somebody take a look at it, see if it's feasible to fix it. And working with your animals to get them loaded is huge.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what we run across is a horse that was brought to the property and never touched again, never put in a horse trailer. It's basically a yard permit or a lawnmower for the folks. But you've got to work with animals. We can load just about anything, and we don't heavy hand them. We don't whip them into submission. We have various different ways. We'll tag team the horse with another person, and finally the horse is gonna end up getting that. But I do encourage you to work with the animals to do that, to try to get them in the trailer. Maybe for doing it at home, that thick, maybe 2 layers of plywood might work, but I wouldn't take that trailer on the road. Not with horses in it.
Yeah, okay, so, all right, yeah, so without being fixed and you get a fire and screwed.
What size horse trailer is it?
It's 2 horse.
Yeah, and you've got 2 horses or a horse and a dog. Yeah, and a lot of times it's like me trying to shove you in a shoebox. The smaller the trailer, the more they're not gonna wanna go into it unless they're used to it. Most of the stuff that we have is 3, 4, 6. But we do have a couple of 2
She
horses.
trailered a lot until I wrecked my knee a year ago. So, and my neck 2 years ago.
Well, I would have somebody look at the trailer and see what the feasibility is to fix it, see how much it's gonna cost you. and go that route.
Okay,
But you can always call us,
and you are,
Jeff Cody, so there would be calling animal control at 271-5079. Yes, ma'am.
okay.
All right?
Thank you for that question.
We're probably about to wrap up and start cleaning, but any last one or two questions here before we do, or we can keep chatting and allow too?
The point planning, right, it's under. Evacuation warning. And I come to my property for
So, let's get the verbiage right. An evacuation order? No. So an evacuation warning, they might set up a check-in system, but it very much depends on the fire behavior and where it's at. So we did do that when we did have the evacuation warning for the quarry fire, of where people could do that, but that's very situational dependent. We don't necessarily encourage that once you're out, but there are potentially situations of an escort with a sheriff or something like that. But that is very, very situationally dependent. Generally on the backside when things are dwindling down, that will happen. In an expanding event, that's pretty unlikely.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you. We appreciate all being there. Thank you so much.